Welcome in Modeling with Foam Board Part 4. Today we explain how to create our concrete structures and how we give them the right color. For the concrete structures on the corners, we use the cardboard layer from the foam board itself. Normally we throw it away, but in this case we will use it. It is actually the peel of the foam board itself. But as I told you before, we will use it this time. Here you see the part that we peeled off. For our concrete beams, we cut off a part from 4.5 millimeters. This part we cut half through in the length. Later we will form a corner by bending it over. We got to be careful not to cut the piece in two. Now we put our piece on the tower itself to pinpoint where we have to cut it off. Our next step is to engrave our corners. We're starting with engraving here on this spot on the right level where the concrete beams are. We engrave on the spot just in the length of the concrete beams, and we try to create a nice and proper engraving. Here you see the two engravings that I already did. The benefit of this peel we use is actually the structure of it. It got the good shape and the right structure to imitate concrete. Here you see the engravings that I already did. It got the same dimensions as the concrete beams itself. To engrave, we use a steel pen. That is a nice way to give our concrete beams shape. We engrave it several times to give it the right shape. Those engravings are our future concrete grids. After the engravings, we give our corner back the right shape. Here you see, after the engravings, how our concrete beam looks like. To make it easy to paint our concrete beams, I bend over a piece of tape to make it nice and easy to paint our parts. We do it this way to prevent painting each part separately. It works a lot faster. Our concrete beams we paint with Humbrol number 28. After blending the paint well, we start immediately with painting. Now the concrete beams are painted, you can clearly see the concrete structure in a better way. Here you see the benefit of this material. Also the concrete beams on the tower itself we paint in the same color. After the paint is dried well, we start to bring on a dark wash layer. You may use the same wash as we used for our brick walls. We blend our wash well and clean our brush afterwards to prevent dirt. We take an amount of wash and start brushing our parts from the top to the bottom. We make sure to bring on an amount of wash in every corner to accentuate the structure in a better way. Also, the concrete beams from the tower we washed in. In this case, were 2 layers necessary. Here you see the already prepared concrete bottom part of our water tower. We assembled this structure in the same way as we did like our tower part before. On the side of this concrete structure, we mount several pieces that we created out of the cardboard layer. Here you see a part that is already done. We try to imitate stones on the corner and on the underside of the structure. As before, we used again the cardboard layer that we peeled off from the foam board. Again, as we did by the rest of the water tower, we engraved the corners with the steel pen. On the corner, we made a cut to bend over the paper part in a nice and smoothly way. Also here, we engraved the shape of the stones to create the look of a stone wall. Later on, we will assemble the upper part of our water tower nicely together with the bottom structure. As you can see, this is an important part of our water tower. At the bottom of our tower, we create a board. We build it out of a thin foam plate we peeled off before. We ensure that the foam layer that we just placed is nicely fitting together with the concrete beams we mounted before. In this way, we create a kind of edge to let nicely fit together with the bottom part. We can create a nice round shape with the back of our metal pen, just by sliding on the edge of the foam board. It's not necessary to sand the surface. Just by pressing with a round surface, you can give the foam the good shape. Here, under the board, we place small pieces of cardboard. Actually, the pieces we peeled off, to create the same concrete structure between those 2 points. So, the narrow strips here are already mounted. Here on the sides of the door opening, we create the same structure as on the corners of our water tower. But here we engrave it instead of mounting small pieces. To create a rougher look, we press some little holes in the surface of the foam, as you can see here. We try to make it look similar as the small pieces we mounted before. Here you see that we have already painted the base of our water tower in the concrete color and also supplied the black wash layer. You may already have been noticed that the linting above the windows is changed. Instead of bricks, we have imitate a concrete beam. So to create this, we used also a piece of cardboard. The reason we changed it is because the original tower had also a concrete structure above the windows. Here you see that I have already mounted a windowsill. To create that, we cut off a piece of cardboard of 12 mm long. To glue this, we pointed on each end a bit in instant glue and mounted on the face of our wall. Once it is mounted, we can paint it in the same color as we used for the concrete structures. To finish our concrete structure, we use 4 colors. We start with the color dark gray, number 7994, from the brand Vallejo. Therefore, we use a small amount of paint and use a flat brush. The paint technique that we want to use is the dry brush technique. Here you see a part that I already did and a part that still got to be done. This board looks more dark than the part here. Here you see that I've tried to accentuate in the corners the structures to make it look nice. Frequently painting or brushing over the surface can bring on more or less dark paint and reach the level of color that you actually want. To have a good idea, it is necessary to stop and look it from a distance to see if it is looking good. Also, the other concrete parts we finish in the same way with the same colors. Of course, we do the same with the concrete beams on the corners. We repeat the way of working with the other colors too. We do it in just the same way. The last color that we use is the color ivory, and we bring it on the sides and the borders of our structure. Also the outer corners we make a little peeler in this way. At the bottom of our water tower we bring on some natural dirt. It's from Vallejo and it's called natural umber. It's a nice pigment to use and to create a natural dirty look. Mainly we bring it on in corners and on the bottom of our structure. Also here in these corners we bring on some natural dirt. So that was it for this time. Before we can work further with the rest of our water tower, we first got to create our windows and doors. Till next time, bye.